Okay, my name is Stephanie Stevens. I'm a principal candidate for Sam Houston State University. I'm doing a pre-conference with Elizabeth Hardig. She is a math teacher at Harvey Junior High in Alvin ISD. And this video is for a principal practicum course. So this is the pre-conference video. Okay, thank you, Ms. Hardig, for allowing me to observe you in a couple of days and whatnot. So I have a few questions about your lesson, and this is our pre-conference. Okay, so the first thing is on the day that I come in, we've established it will be on an A day during fourth period. What grade level do you teach fourth period, and what level is this math class?
So I teach a 7th grade math class during fourth period, and it is an SI class as well. I have 5 SI students and I have 15 non-SI students, so 20 total. I inherited this class in January. So some of the students were students that came back from virtual learning, and then a predominant amount of them are students that I have pulled from Mr. Bloodworth's fourth period and Mrs. Good's fourth period, 2 other math teachers that have the same period of 7th grade math, and I pulled out all of their behavior issues. So I have all of those students in my class.
So that means you're pretty good with behavior and
Yes.
strict disciplinarian, okay? And SI means sheltered instruction, yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
So
okay.
these are LEP students, English learners.
Okay. All right, thank you for that clarity. What are you all currently working on? And within the next couple of weeks, what will you all be working on or have planned at least?
So we actually just wrapped up our first unit back. We were learning about graphing and statistics, and last class, which would have been on Friday, was our first day learning probability unit. And so this is actually an interesting topic because they have never seen probability in math before. So this is the first time they've learned it, and they won't see it again until geometry. But it ties in a lot of very interesting topics like proportionality and making equivalent ratios to make predictions. And it has a lot of real life applicable things. So this is generally a fun unit for kids and they enjoy it. It's also one of my love units. We do a lot of hands-on because they're gonna, I personally believe that students learn math by doing math, not by me talking.
Okay, so this will be the fun probability of, what's the probability of pulling 3 red M&Ms as opposed to 5 purple ones or
Yes.
whatever? Oh, that's the fun stuff. So I think, okay, that's pretty cool. And some of the activities that you have planned, you said that you like to have your kids getting out of their seats and moving around. What kind of activities do you have planned for that probability or for the probability unit?
So we started, on Friday was day 1, and that's just introductory to what probability is. So we did our Freire model, describing what the word was, defining it, identifying characteristics, and then providing examples. And so what they did after that is they did probability sampling stations, where they had, actually they were right here, they had hands-on, they had spinners, pattern blocks, because our next unit is 2-dimensional, and so that I want them to get comfortable with the words trapezoid, triangle, things like that. So these were used. We have number cubes, or dice, they call them number cubes, and then we have our little centimeter cubes. And so they had them, and the purpose was identifying, so for example this one, they would have found the probability of pulling a green, and it was 2 out of 10. And then they would find the probability of not pulling a green, which is 8 out of 10.
Okay.
And then I simply asked them, what do you notice? And so all of the stations, and they worked in groups together to do this, was to be able to kind of make the connection that the probability of an event happening and the probability of it not happening combined to make one whole, or 100%. The particular day that you are coming in, we're actually going to be learning about qualitative and quantitative predictions.
Ooh.
So this is 2 times more likely than this happening, or 3 times less likely, or 2/3 of the probability. And so we'll start it out by providing, sorry, I have my lesson plans in front of me.
Okay.
Yes, and I can actually show you how to do it.
Okay.
So I like to put all of my stuff into a Google slide,
Mhm.
obviously, especially with the hybrid teaching and everything like that. So it's just easy to kind of self-pace, and it has my content and my language objectives and essential questions to unpack with kids. So the particular day that you would come in, and I don't know if you can see that, but it would have something like this, and they would be in groups, and it just has the frequency of a dice that was rolled in the colors. And so then they have to fill in the statements.
Okay.
So the probability of rolling a green and a yellow is almost equally likely. And so then we kind of discuss qualitative versus quantitative. Quantitative is those numbers, quantity, versus qualitative being the words. From there, they get this, and what they have to do is they have to create the spinner that they think was there based on the frequency.
Wow.
And I don't really provide a lot of instruction. I simply ask questions. What do you think has the biggest chunk?
So like inquiry based, but
Absolutely.
you are asking the questions and they have to figure it out. So that's a way to grow and stretch and increase their learning. Okay, I like that. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing that. That's pretty cool.
So it's fun. After that, let's see, there's an activity where they're provided, just printed it out. And again, I do a lot of stuff in groups, socially distant groups nowadays, but
Right.
still groups nonetheless. It's an activity with, and it has items from our Think Up book, which is our textbook, but it's not necessarily, I wouldn't call it a textbook, it's more of a workbook.
Okay.
So we have 4 items, 4 released questions, and this correlates with an active Inspire presentation that goes up on the board.
Okay.
Kids would be in color groups. So if you were red, orange, yellow, and green. Now these colors correspond to the color choices on the answer key, or on the original problem that would be presented.
Okay.
So for all of them, the first answer choice goes to the first problem. Their second answer choice goes to the second, third to the third question, and fourth, etc.
Okay.
So they're only having to annotate and determine whether their answer choice is true or not.
Oh, okay.
And so it kind of breaks up the monotony. It takes 4 questions that could be just a boring worksheet and makes it more interactive and gets students talking instead of teacher talk.
Okay, I like that. I have to definitely get with you on things like that just because that sounds really fun, actually. Okay, so let me go back and ask, you said this class is sheltered instruction, 7th grade. Is it all face-to-face, or do you still have some kids that are ABL?
So it is
Virtual.
on the schedule, it is all face-to-face. However, since we've started, I've had at least one student quarantined, so we've been hybrid.
Oh,
So
okay.
everything that I do face-to-face, I would make an equivalent digital version.
Mhm.
And I try my hardest to still pay attention to that child. The other class that I teach is always hybrid, so I've gotten good at monitoring and kind of managing the ratio of interactions.
Mhm.
But it is harder when you have like a disciplinary issue in your face-to-face class.
Okay, well, I have a question, a follow-up question with that. It's not on my list of questions, but I just thought about it. So this year with the pandemic, how do you think that teaching hybrid, face-to-face and online, how do you think that has strengthened you as an educator? Increased strengthen you, that's the question.
Well, it's twofold. One, I think that it forces you out of your comfort zone to really dive in and look for tools and ways to make learning engaging through a screen. Two, it makes you much more cognizant of the amount of interactions you have with children. So like, when I sit into in my face-to-face classroom, I know that I've called and talked to every single kid. And now I have to be much more purposeful planning the communication aspect of the virtual and making sure that just because they're behind the screen, they're still able to talk about their learning, not only with myself, but with their face-to-face peers. Hybrid teaching itself is tough. I think that it's helped me though, in my role, to be able to coach and support my teachers if they have similar situations. It helps that I'm in it, like I'm in the trenches with them. And so I can be like, hey, this worked for me or this didn't. So you get a little bit more buy-in.
Okay, I like that. So, thank you for that. How do you assess for growth over time? Like, I know we do campus-based assessments, and we're getting ready for the simulated start coming up shortly. How do you, or how will you assess for growth over time with this particular lesson
So
or unit?
how am I gonna formatively assess?
Yes,
For that particular skill?
yes,
Okay. Well, one, whenever they're doing the interactive things, I'm never in my seat.
okay,
I bounce and I'm always conferencing with one student or another kind of quickly. So at each point of the lesson, you have different checkpoints. So the first one, when we had the fill in the blanks, obviously I'd be able to walk around and kind of ask those probing questions to see how the kids were doing. And then this one, again, asking the guiding questions. So each portion of the lesson has its own little mini formative assessment in there. And then based on that, that tells me whether I need to whole group, like clarify something, or just pull some kids to a small group.
okay, all right, all right,
But there is, where is it? An independent practice at the end.
okay,
So 6 questions where they essentially are doing the same thing. They're filling in qualitative and quantitative predictions using a frequency table. So it models the instruction that we've kind of done together, and then now they do their independent work.
okay, and then you use, exit tickets as well?
Yes, so that will be their exit ticket.
Oh, the independent practices?
Yes. Mhm.
Oh, okay, I see what
2
you're.
for 1, yeah.
Okay.
And so then I'll use that, and generally, students get tripped up on number 6 because it has a 2/3 as likely. But from there, then you're able to kind of divvy up and sort. And so then the next day when we come back, I would have a warm up about it. And while everyone else is working independently, I pull the kids that need the help and do it with them to kind of support as a secondary instruction.
Okay, that is good information, I like that. This might seem a little bit redundant, but, at the end of your lesson, or the unit rather, what is it that you expect the students to know? So, I think, I don't think I asked you about the TEAC particularly, so I guess, tell me the TEAC and, what is it that you expect the students to know at the end of this lesson or unit?
So our actual standard is gonna be 7-6. Hold on, don't quote me on this, let me look it up. So in math, generally we have about 5 or 6 standards within a unit. This particular unit has one readiness standard, which is finding probability. It's like simple and compound probabilities. But the particular standard that you're gonna, it has 2 readiness standards. You're actually observing me on the day that I'm teaching one of the readiness standards, which is solving or making qualitative and quantitative predictions.
Okay.
But prior to that, students would have already learned simple probability and its complement, as well as sample space, which are both supporting standards in that.
And.
7-6H, by the way.
Alright, and just, type in as we, so I can look back over this for when I come in. Alright, so you said there are 2 readiness standards, finding probability, and then making qualitative and quantitative predictions, yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I thank you, again, I had my questions all, but you're good, because, and again, some of this might sound a little bit redundant, please indulge me, but, the data, no, I didn't ask you this, what data do you use to group your students? So you told me you do the exit tickets, and you go by and you do the informal evaluation and whatnot, but, I know that on our campus, we use the data from the assessments. And so when you group your students based on that assessment data, do you keep those groups the same until the next assessment? Or do you kind of move them around based on the skill that you're teaching for this week or whatever?
Generally, well, because of COVID, students have their assigned seats for contact tracing, and so I'm not moving it around a lot. We have gone through like 3 or 4 seating charts, which predominantly is based on like personality right now, just because of getting students, coming in from 2 different teachers and online. We're still learning each other and who can handle whatnot, but what I have done, essentially trying to play within the personalities, is they're grouped heterogeneously based on semester exam.
Okay.
Normally, in a normal year, my desks would not be in rows, I would have them in groups of 5, and my students would be grouped heterogeneously based on the prior common assessment, so that when I pull, like when they're doing their group work, I can pull my homogeneous groups,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm really only pulling like one kid from each group, because you have your highest of the high and your lowest, like your highest of the high with the highest of the middle with the highest of the low,
Right.
because you never want your lowest with your highest, it just won't
That
work.
won't work. Or somebody's not going to work.
Correct. But yeah, no, heterogeneously based on semester exam, because right now that would be what I'm pulling small groups on.
Mm-hmm.
Because generally it's tough getting them in January and not knowing like fully how they were instructed prior to.
Right.
So it's kind of just seeing where they're at with the small groups. But generally, I would not do small group instruction on current in the classroom. Like I would pull them to standards-based tutorials.
Okay, so, okay. Yeah, this year has made things really.
It has, but I think it's pulled and pushed and challenged and grown us.
Absolutely.
And if we can handle this, then we can handle anything.
Of course, especially the program.
I am really excited. I do want to share this class.
Okay.
And I'm big with setting goals.
Okay.
This is where you're at, this is where we're going. And so day 1, we looked at semester exam, and they were at 75% approach, 25% meets, and 0% mastery, which is atrocious.
Right.
Especially being in comprehensive and everything like that. And so I told them, I was like, this is where you're at, and I went through, and while they were doing their semester exam data, I went and spoke with every single individual child and showed them, this is where you were on CBA,
Mm-hmm.
this is where you are on semester, I want you to see like whether you grew or not, and all except 3 of mine grew from CBA,
Wonderful.
which is good. But I said, are we okay with this? And so then we talked and set a goal for themselves. I was like, if you had a 30, don't set it at 100. Let's be realistic. Like eventually you can get there. I'm not saying that you cannot. You can be successful,
Right.
but it's incremental steps. And so this common assessment that we just took, which is actually one of the more challenging units for kiddos, 80% approach, 50% meets, and 20% mastery.
Wow, that is amazing.
And so I shared that with them, and I had a student up at the board. I don't know if you know DeMarcus. So he wrote out what we had at approach, meets, and masters for semester exam.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went out and said like what we did, and we talked about the growth. So like 5 percentage points in approach, but then one of my students goes, we doubled meets. And I said, absolutely we did. I was like, but we're not done, you know? And so it's this constant of like, this is where you were now, where are we moving next? Because I'm never satisfied. Like if this is my expectation and you rise here, I'm raising it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're capable. They're so capable.
That is absolutely amazing. That is, I guess, very telling on your part, because that means that the students are engaged and.
Well, I'm crazy. I'm wild. It's like every day is a theater. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And this is like, and I tell them, I'm hard on them, and I'm strict, but I'll play
Right.
a little bit.
Tough love.
But I tell them, I said, I push you because I love you, and at the end of the day, I'll ride or die for you.
Right.
But I need you to give me your all.
Exactly. I'll ride or die for you, but you need to ride or die for yourself.
Exactly.
Oh, that is amazing. I really like that. So that is absolutely amazing.
I was so proud of them. I was like crying. One of my students who got a 40 on the semester exam got a 90, like mastered, right? And I'm just like over here like crying as I'm like looking at him grading his, because I grade them as they turn them in, even though I run the scantrons, because I like to sort them like approach meets and masters,
Right.
and see just common misconceptions.
Mhm.
And I just like looked at him and I was like, you did it.
Oh, wow, that is amazing. That's like really good. Kudos to you.
Well,
Like-
I'm not satisfied. I want more.
Well, no, and we shouldn't be satisfied. Well, I will say
It's a step in the right
a
direction.
step in the right direction, but yes, we shouldn't get complacent with where we are. One of my professors says we always need to, it's okay to be where you are, but don't stay there.
Mm-hmm.
So always moving in the right direction. That is absolutely amazing. Now, I know you told me that you have sheltered instruction students, what we in this district call SI. In this class, I know you, well,
I have one special ed student,
okay, so you have a 504 IEP or,
IEP.
okay, IEP.
I have, so one sped student, but he's sped because of PASS, so he's a
Okay.
behavioral sped student. very, very bright. I teach his brother in geometry. And then, like, he's one of the ones I requested.
Okay.
You'll be able to tell. There's about like 6 of them,
Mm-hmm.
4 of which are like on the boys basketball team, and they're just very vibrant and full of personality. I have 5 students with 504s.
Okay.
Majority is ADHD. Yeah, so you'll see, they're like little squirrels, but I am too, so it's like, I get so distracted by them.
They're like, wait, she's doing more than I am. Wait, what's going on?
Yes, no, but they're fun. It's my favorite part of my day.
Okay, well, I am looking forward to coming in here and observing this class. And I'm excited to just come in here and just watch. So I hope that I don't forget to make notes because I'm already excited. But if I forget to make notes, I'll just have to, that'll give me another excuse to come in.
You're always welcome.
So thank you so much for this pre-conference, and